There was no shortage of news on the technology and business beat this year. For a preview of what will dominate 2024, we turn to our senior business and technology correspondent, Ling Kent. Ling, good morning.
Good morning.
So you cover Silicon Valley. There was all this talk here in Washington about trying to regulate artificial intelligence, AI. Is there any momentum here?
You know, there is some momentum, but Congress does not have a good track record when it comes to regulating tech or social media. And artificial intelligence appears to be yet another difficult challenge for them. You have the Senate AI Forum. It's convened several times behind closed doors, and it features powerful CEOs. You've got Sam Altman of OpenAI, Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, Microsoft's Satya Nadella, and of course, Elon Musk. But no concrete progress has been made on the part of lawmakers. Now, this comes as the newest version of ChatGPT 5 is expected to come out in the coming months, and it's expected to be a new, increasingly complex set of capabilities. Now, all this happening as the backdrop of Goldman Sachs predicting that 300 million jobs will disappear or change significantly thanks to AI. And you can expect voters to be asking about that impact in the election year ahead, Margaret.
Absolutely. And we know in the immediate term, the Biden administration has been concerned about what this will mean for our politics on the campaign trail, the use of deep fakes or misleading voters. What are the companies doing to prevent that?
You know, the social media companies are telling me that they're throwing every resource that they have to stop misinformation and disinformation. But the reality is that this is a sprawling, endless game of whack-a-mole. Bad information spreads constantly online, and it is continuing to be very hard to stop, especially with the arguments and protections of free speech. Now, Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, says it removes manipulated media and voter interference misinformation. And the company does utilize fact-checking organizations and beyond. But the reality here is that taking down all of this bad information has always been an impossible task on platforms of that size. And of course, we cannot forget about X, formerly Twitter. Elon Musk and his team have basically allowed the return of conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones. And they've also dramatically reduced the size of their trust and safety team, Margaret.
Switching gears to the broader economy, which I know you watch as well. You know, the Federal Reserve had this end of year rosier prediction than many expected about what they may do with interest rates, including potentially carrying out 3 cuts. What's going to determine that for people who are, you know, thinking that things are too expensive right now in terms of borrowing money?
Yeah, borrowing money is really expensive right now. You're absolutely right. And so the Fed's going to be looking at 3 main things: the job market, inflation, and GDP. That's the size and productivity of the economy, right? And as those main markers change and report, they'll decide how and when to cut rates. Now, at this month's Fed meeting, the country's top central bankers forecast that inflation will drop to about 2.4% in 2024, and then finally reaching that target of 2% in 2026. Now, we've also been looking at the dot plot, and those are some of the predictions about what's coming next year from the December Fed meeting. And we expect to see at least 3 rate cuts next year as the Fed is trying to land this plane for that soft landing, basically wanting to bring down inflation without triggering a recession. Now, as for when rates are going to be cut, Fed Chair Powell said something really interesting in December, and I want to share this quote with you. He said, "We're aware of the risk that we would hang on too long before reducing rates, and there is a risk that that poses to the economy." But meantime, we've been covering the vibe session here, right? There's a real disconnect between encouraging economic data on jobs and inflation and spending versus the reality of how people feel about their personal finances when it comes to your rent, your gas, and the rising cost of insurance. So this is a vibe session that went on throughout 2023, likely to continue well into the presidential campaign season.
Ling, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Margaret. Great to be with you.